Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Streaming to you from the East Coast to the left coast and around the world on UCY.tv. This is All Things Apocalyptic with your host, G. Michael Hopf. Well, I think everybody kind of knows what's in the news tonight. Ferguson. And you know what I say to that? Blah, 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 blah. And the reason is, it's because it's a story about nothing, really. People, come on. This is a story that was completely manipulated and generated by race baiters in the mainstream media to create a story that would divide us as a people and divide us as a nation. That's all that this is. Everyone's all caught up in all this Ferguson BS when really what's happened? What's actually happened? There was somebody that was shot. I would say he's a thug. People have a disagreement about that. But the fact is, if I was a cop and I'm trying to apprehend somebody, I'm in a fight, I'm in a cop car, there's a gunshot that goes off there, I get out of the car. If you look at the information, the facts of this case, I would have shot him dead too. But this is turned into a whole new thing. And it's being turned into this haves and have-nots and the people out there protesting. To me personally, people out there protesting are nothing but a bunch of unemployed losers that we shouldn't be hitting these people with tear gas. We should hit them with job applications and watch the freaking protests go away. Maybe I would have put money at the Payless shoe store that they ransacked. All the work boots probably remained. And this whole thing about justice, where's the justice for the small business owner that has busted their ass only to have thugs and people out there to cause mayhem, destroy their business? Where's the justice for them? Where's the justice for the people that are being injured right now, the people that are under threat? This whole thing is BS. And again, I think it's all just trumped up by nothing but race baiters that want to create division with our nation so that they might have something else that's going on behind the scenes. What else is happening right now in the halls of government? This major distraction is underway. It's like a Seinfeld episode gone crazy. There are how many murders every month in the United States? How many shootings? This one makes news. This one goes anywhere. Why? Because the media, almost as if they were ordered, flew into this area, this town outside of St. Louis, this suburb of St. Louis, and manufactured this story. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. It did happen. But trumped it up to be something greater than what it is. This is not a testament on who we are as a nation. This doesn't tell us who we are as a people. This is a complete bullshit story. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I don't really feel all that passionate about it, as you can tell. But it's just Ferguson this, Ferguson that, blah, blah, blah. It's just nonsense. I would love to know what's actually... So I wonder what they're passing right now in Washington. I wonder what kind of little shenanigans are happening around certain halls of government while we are all distracted with all these losers out there looting and causing mayhem. And by the way, it's funny, the losers are claiming they want justice. Bring justice to my neck of the woods. I'll show you justice. I'll squeeze a round off and I'll put justice in your ass. So I've got a great guest tonight. He's a great American. He's a entrepreneur. He's come to this country and he's created a lot for himself, and I greatly respect him. I consider him a friend, and he's also the designer, developer, I guess it might be the right word, the game Conflicted, which I know those of you that hear, those that listen to Lori's show quite a bit have played that game. So I would like to introduce JD Dutra to the show. JD, are you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a fan of the show since day one, and it's great to be here.
As you can tell, I'm a little fired up.
Yeah, you're right on it, man. I'm with you. You know, if you saw what all these guys did when they feel like they're entitled to something, and they're really not. You know, you see YouTube videos of these people saying, "We deserve this." No, you don't. You know, it's some other guy that got shot. Has nothing to do with you. But they automatically put themselves in a situation where it's basically justifiable to go around looting. Now, can you imagine when these guys are really hungry, when these guys really don't have EBT cards working and there's no water? How crazy are they going to go? Because then they really have a legitimate reason. They're not just taking up the pains of somebody else.
Well,
When they're really hurting.
You make a valid point there. Absolutely. I mean, they're just out there to create mayhem now. You put them in a situation where they're actually starving. So this is why we all prepare. And I know most people listen to this show. That's why they do that. We're ready for these we're ready for these types of people. These are these marauder types that are out there that they literally have no moral compass. They're just about what they want to get out of it. There's no rationale. Obviously, I mean, I'm a reasonable individual, and I can look and see that, yeah, there are some people that want to stand out. They're upset by how this grand jury, came down with their decision. But I'm telling you, that is a very small percentage of people that are out there quote unquote protesting. The rest are just opportunists out there just to create mayhem and get what they want out of it. And I don't know why, actually, the law enforcement isn't hammering these sons of bitches, really.
Well, they're too busy protecting the government buildings. Did you see any of them get looted? They didn't. They're posting guards to the government buildings. So another lesson from this is when you need it the most, the government is going to take care of itself. They're not going to be, protecting your business. The liquor store where it all happened, that Mike Brown robbed before getting shot, that store was ransacked completely on national TV. I mean, wouldn't the police know that store was going to get hit? That they could put maybe some police cars there, since that's where it all happened? Of course they knew. They chose not to, because they were too busy taking care of themselves.
Yeah, that's all true. Hey, let's we can come back to this. There are some my listeners, my fans, my series are probably listening to the show. I kind of went off on a tangent there. Why don't we bring us back around? Why don't you introduce yourself to those people who may not know who you are, and kind of bring everyone up to speed, all the way up to everything you've got going on right now.
Sounds good. JD Dutra, I'm creator of Conflicted, survival card game. Conflicted is a game of survival scenarios that basically they make you think they make you make a choice between life or your morals. Decisions that people have made throughout the ages, people make outside of America, where they don't have the comforts that we have. And these are scenarios that are pretty uncomfortable to talk about with other people. So these are questions, that basically gauge your survival philosophy and your morals, and what kind of person are you really? Are you more of a martyr, or are you going to go out there and take it? And through a little simple game, you can find out a lot about people and have a discussion. So we have 4 decks. The first one we published about a year ago, and it's been our bestseller so far, and a lot of the users in the prepper community, the people who are out there, they recommend it. Jack Spurkos, Jane, Southern Prepper 1, these are folks who really got behind it, and that's our number 1 deck. We also have deck number 2, which has scenarios from the prepper community, and these vary from Southern Prepper 1 down to Anonymous. Scenarios that people just admit because they want us to be talking about it. and some really cool things that I haven't thought about. And that's 3 and 4 are based on books. Number 3, they're based on your books, and which is just a great combination because you can have little glimpses and little ideas of what's going on in the book, but it doesn't give you away the story. But it just extracts the tough situations that your characters have to face. So the players, they go through it and they're like, okay, if I was Gordon, what would I do? You know, if I was Sebastian, what would I do? And that's kind of it's still a game of conflicted, but I think it's more of a game that the mainstream people will be okay playing. It's not too in your face, you know. It's based on an international bestseller, so it's easier to swallow. The decks number 1 and 2 are more raw in the sense that there's really no excuse, you know. You're not really putting yourselves in the shoes of a character, really asking you point blank if you would shoot somebody or would you give them your food and supper. And the deck number 4 is based on the books by A. American. A great guy, awesome books, and I'm really happy the way things turned out. This has been a great adventure.
Yeah, the decks are amazing. I was after the first time you and I got introduced on Prepper Chicks After Dark, playing the game. And after I played, the conflicted game the first time is when I got the idea. I was like, oh my God, this is a really cool concept. And then you and I, hooked up after that, and that's history now. Now there's a deck that's out that's based on a series. And it without a doubt, it is a great. I think it's also entertaining, but you have to get past it. The main thing is it's a great tool. If you've got a group of people that you want to, that you're thinking about possibly bugging in with or bugging out with, or if there's some kind of an event that goes down, they're going to be part of your group. This is a good game to play with them before that kind of situation happens, because you get a real feel for what they believe. And you do it in a way without having to sit down and ask them 20 questions or kind of go through some interview process to make sure everyone's on the right page. Knowing how people will react is it's valuable to know whether you want them on your team or not, because there are going to be some tough situations and tough decisions to make if something happens. So it's a it's a valuable tool. I'm sure there's some of the people on here have played it. Those who haven't, I highly suggest you pick it up. You can't go wrong with it. I know it's different format. It's in a physical card back, as well as you also have an application for it too, correct?
Yeah, we have an iPhone and an Android app. And if you look on the iPhone, it has to be iPhone only, but it does work on the iPad. It works for both, and it has the first 3 decks on that. And it's a good little tool because people can go in there and kind of post what they will do. And none of this information is stored, not inside the app or on the servers. And so basically, it's completely anonymous. So, and it's good to see what people are thinking. And you can get to vote answers up and down. It's pretty entertaining. And people seem to enjoy it. And one thing that I like about decks is that I hear time and time again people who play the game and they're like, wow, after playing Conflicted, I felt so uncomfortable that I decided to really start preparing myself because I see it, if I had to choose between my Christian values and protecting my children, or if I was myself into one of those situations, I would not like the type of decisions that I would have to make. So I prep, I buy extra food, I make sure I have, the safety of my family taken care of, just so that when it comes and it's difficult, I don't have to make choosing between which poison to take. You can actually live another day and have somewhat of a clear conscience. Some of the scenarios that are in the books are kind of off the wall, and some are very real. And people sometimes ask me, why are they there? They're there just so sometimes the game of conflict is so much about the answer, words that are spoken, but also the people's body language says a lot. So even if a survival situation is too tough, that the person is completely unnerved and uncomfortable. I've seen people start twitching a little bit with some of the scenarios. You just know that person is not somebody who can be put under pressure, So you just learn a lot. Sometimes when you have an answer, and everybody does have an answer to these scenarios, people discuss different points of views, and you end up just kind of changing your mind, expanding your horizons a little bit. I think it's a great exercise. And so far, out of all the decks that we sold, we never had anybody ask for their money back, saying, "Hey, this is not what I was looking for. This is not fun." It never had to happen. Probably just because it's today, it is going to happen this weekend. So far, it hasn't happened.
What's the genesis of all this? I mean, when did all of a sudden because I appreciate what you do, because you're an entrepreneur, and I love entrepreneurs. I think that entrepreneurs, small business owners are the lifeblood of this country, and so one day you all had this idea. But then you're the kind of guy that you act on that idea, and then it manifests itself, and now it's around the world. Your products are around the globe and in people's hands. So when was that day, morning? Describe that to people listening.
Well, it's kind of a crazy idea. At the time, I had moved to a new place, and I connected with a lot of people who were preppers right away. But I was somewhat new to prepping. That was about 2 years ago. And what got me prepping was the whole financial collapse, because I do have other businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. Just mainly startups. They're fun. So my understanding of money told me that someday this whole thing is going to collapse. And I know the currencies have collapsed in other countries. It just goes to dollar. But what happens if the dollar goes, So that got me going. And my other buddies were all prepping for different reasons, One guy was, hey, we live in California, there's going to be an earthquake. Here, it's somewhat close to the San Andreas line. Another guy said, the pandemic, it's going to happen sooner or later. We're going to have another black plague. So it kind of started freaking me out, because I prepared for the things that I knew. But once I got talking to these guys, I realized there's just so much out there that can go wrong, and that we don't think about. Not because these threats don't exist, but because our daily lives kind of condition you not to really think about this kind of stuff. I mean, how easy would it be for an EMP to just fry all of the electronics and throw everything out of whack, or trucking, delivering goods, gas, or water system. It's so easy for that to happen, but no one talks about it. So after seeing all these different situations, I wanted to build something where people could discuss it, what everybody knew at all levels, because I can prepare for what I know can happen. I can prepare for what my neighbor or my buddy tells me can happen, but what else is out there? So I wanted to create a tool to get the whole preparedness community talking. And in the beginning, when I came up with it, I had no idea it was going to sell. I had no idea people would actually enjoy it. And I just had some very key people in the preparedness community get behind it. Lori from Pepper Chicks, she's been great. great connector. She connected me with you and so many other people. So it just went like wildfire from there. So I think it's a tool that people always wanted to have, but it just didn't exist. So, because I wanted to buy something like this, but it didn't exist, so I just went out and created it. And it's been a really good ride. I'm very happy with where things are going.
Well, that's how anything pretty much exists that's unique. Comes into in existence is that if somebody wants it, it doesn't exist. So it takes somebody like you to create that, to make it happen in this world. So thank you for that. I mean, the game is really cool. Like I said, the first time I played it, I got off, and I think I contacted you right away. This is really a cool concept, and I'm that kind of guy. Like, how can I be part of this?
Yeah, your book fit right in, man. The things I hear about the deck 3, the decks about your books, is I still get people thinking about preparedness, but it doesn't freak them out as much because they're not being put in the spotlight. It's kind of an easier way to take that bitter pill when EMP can happen, because deck number 1, for example, has so many things, everything from violence, to an earthquake, to it's kind of all over the board. But your deck kind of eases people into that mindset, and people really enjoy it.
Well, when people kind of working class. Now, you got last week and over the past couple of weeks, it kind of bounces in and out of the news. There's talk like cyber attacks, taking down the grid, et cetera. So I mean, and then on top of that, I think where you need to be prepared. I mean, let's go back to the whole thing first, and why cards are such a great tool. Is you think a year ago today, people in Ferguson were thinking they're parts of their main streets would be burned to the ground right now?
Absolutely not. So
it came to their hometown. Whatever's happened to some of these people, it feels apocalyptic. It feels like their lives are completely changed forever. And just literally a year ago, just 6 months ago, there was nothing on their radar for this type of event to occur.
Yeah, and it can happen in a heartbeat, and it's just crazy. I think the greatest thing about preparedness is it gives people options to maintain a certain level of comfort. You don't need to be pulled out of your comfort zone by somebody else. We don't. Most policies out there, they only require you to cover damage to the other person's car when you're driving. They don't cover theft, your car being burned, and all of a sudden you got a payment. There's just so much that can happen to you if you're not ready. And again, man, this is just a glimpse of what people can do when they're feeling something. And I just can't imagine when people are really hurting how far they're going to go and how many more people are going to jump on the bandwagon. Because, you know, for every guy who's out there throwing rocks and looting, there's a number of people at home just saying, you know what, I should go out there, but I'm not. But what event is going to push those people to get out there? Screwed by the IRS, I'm an employer. This is my time. I'm sick of everything. I deserve this. And they go out there and cause mayhem. It's going to be busy.
Oh, yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, people are willing to these are the people that just want to destroy. You get that other level like you're describing, where they're hungry, where they're truly going to now probably starve. Even I've had these conversations before. We know exactly what they're capable of, and there are those others you're talking about. You're referencing those others that are kind of sitting on the couch. They're either constrained usually by two different things. They're either constrained by a true moral code of what's right and wrong, or they're constrained with the fact that they don't want to get caught. Then these people will start flooding into the street when there is a lawless, when there is no law, there's no rule of law exists anymore. They're definitely in the street. So then that leaves people that have some kind of a moral code. Then what do? Then that moral code can start to adjust. And I'm like, okay, I can do this against a person because I'm doing it to feed my family. Then the moral code becomes extremely flexible. And then you get more people in the street doing stuff. And when you have a population of 3 or 15 million, give or take, whatever, that's a lot of people. And and these things happen quickly, tend to escalate quickly. And there's a lot of talk today, and I'm not surprised. They're surprised that the mayor, not the mayor, but the governor didn't do much, and there wasn't the proper deployment of assets. Well, you get it around on this, or the Fed, that's exactly what they do. By the way, they tell us that, people. They tell us that's what they do. The government always circles wagons. The government's first priority, in fact, any entity that exists, whether it's an individual, whether it's an animal, or whether it's the government, their first priority is self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because they think they know what's best. They think without him, everything will fall apart, right? And to your point, sometimes we think about the kind of people who are going to go out there, they're on the brink, and when things break down, they're going to be out there, and we're like, wow, I wonder who these people are. You know, are they in the ghetto apartments? Are they in the trailer parks? Let me tell you, man, I'm sure everybody who's listening has a couple friends or family members who are those people. And I know that because sometimes when you're playing Conflicted, for example, you have a scenario like that. You know, if you didn't listen, you didn't prepare, and you exhausted all, you know, your help. Your kids are hungry, well, you need to do? They'll say, oh, we're looting. And you're like, hey, come on, man, you can't do that. But in the heat of the conversation, they get so passionate justifying why they should do it. And the love of their children is higher than the guilt of being a looter. You know? So it's so funny to see the mental molding and the bending that they go through to kind of rationalize their decision, you know. And I learned that so much playing this game with so many different people that, you know, to them, that is most like us. How dare you not loot when your children are starving? Are you chicken? Are you afraid of something? You don't love your kid enough? That's what you got to do, you know. It's those type of conversations that come up. And you're like, man, I had no idea you were this crazy. You know, we've been friends for a while. But this subject never came up before. So Conflicted helps stirs that up. And you really opened my eyes to some of my own friends, you know, people to watch for when they come over asking for stuff. So,
Well, it should open their eyes. I've had these conversations with friends too, and it's always interesting. It should open their eyes that the thing is, if you're that person that will sit and wait, and then your only justification is you're doing it for your kids, and if it's a large scale type of an event where a lot of the infrastructure goes down and things aren't working and there's really no law enforcement response to anything, by the time you make that decision, well, I don't know what you're going to loot. Again, look at the sheer numbers. Say that most of the stores will be gone. They'll be stripped bare by the time you make that decision. And so that I always put back on them. So, well, then shouldn't this then propel you to make sure that you have those resources set aside and skill sets set aside, that you don't have to be that person wringing your hands like, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, I'll go do it. Oh, now there's nothing left. So be that person that's prepared. Be that person that can close the door when all hell's breaking loose and feel secure and make sure that your family's taken care of. Why take that risk? Ask one of those people in Ferguson right now. Just 6 months ago. I mean, if you were to go there and say, listen, this whole street in 6 months is going to be burned to the ground. Your business is going to be gone. And people are like, well, that's never, I love this all the time from my friends. That's never going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because that can only happen somewhere else. It can never happen here where I live. It can only happen somewhere else, is what people say. But, I don't want to live with myself being the kind of person that I'll become if I had to go looting to feed my children. Can you imagine, if you're a hardworking guy and your kids can't sleep because they're hungry and your wife is just completely like, hey, I can hold them off, but you got to do something right now. And the stores have all been looted because you waited too long. I mean, what are you going to do next? And the person that you would become, it's very scary. And that it's human nature, People say, hey, here in America, it'll never happen. But it has happened throughout the ages. When there's lack of resources, it happens in different parts of the world. People it's self-preservation. The animal instincts just kick in. And you just go nuts, It'd be very hard for father and mother to watch a child starve to death and not go out there and justify to themselves that they should really try and steal some oranges or some chicken or go begging, It'd be a very stressful situation that most people have no idea how they would react. If you think about it, very few people, for example, you said that here in America there's about 350 million people. I mean, how many of those people really work in the private sector that actually serve other people, know how to gain a customer, know how to provide a service, know how to do something functional? Not that many, You have the private sector that's very small. You have a bunch of retired folks. You have people who are employed by the government that they really don't do anything to improve in their quality of life. They just, maybe the guy writes traffic tickets, maybe the girl works at the counter at the courthouse. And when the crap hits the fan, what are they going to do? They have no idea. So that's what pushes people to the edge. And being prepared, it's just one of the most no-brainer things that I've ever decided to do,
Yeah,
and yet there's this whole stigma.
Yeah, well, I know the stigma is so interesting. And I think it's because people think if they do it, they have to become this whole nother person. Like, if you go out and learn certain skills and you become more self-reliant, that you have to somehow define yourself as that, and you have to also become you have to dress differently, hang out with different people. So you don't have to change anything. You can keep the life you have in a lot of ways if you like to go out and go clubbing and go or do this and whatever you like to do in your life. You can still do that. Nothing precludes you from going out and still doing the movies, spending money at Nordstrom's or going over here. You can still do all that in your life. But make sure you have this over here. It's like people have car insurance, people have health insurance, people have these types of things, life insurance. It's like having insurance. Like you have this set aside. You make sure that you have some knowledge to back it up. And obviously people can go at all different levels. But there's a stigma, and it's strange where that stigma comes from. Because when I look at it, it just seems so no-brainer. It's like a no-brainer. Why would I not have resources available to me? Why would I not? History tells me that the way things are never going to remain the same forever, and it could end in my lifetime. It can end in my children's lifetime. Why would I not? Talk about the parental kind of concept of that. It's like, you're really taking care of your kids? Are you? So when something happens, you have to rely on somebody else to take care of your children because you thought it was crazy to make sure you had certain things set aside. And it didn't affect any other part of your life. Not one other thing changed in your life. But adding that that just tipped the scales. You're a lunatic all of a sudden. I love that. I get that from certain friends. Like, all of a sudden now you're a crazy person. Everything else remains the same. You do this extra thing, you're freaking off the scales. But they're always the ones like, well, I know where I'm going to be when shit hits the fan. No, you won't. No, you won't. There's a great piece by Glenn Tate. He put out a few weeks ago addressing that, a good blog piece. He pretty much said, "I'll shoot you in the face if you come by my house." But go ahead.
I saw that piece. I thought it was pretty cool. It's people, because people feel about preparedness exactly how you describe, but at the same time, people are buying life insurance, they have car insurance, they have health insurance, and isn't that the same thing? You buy health insurance in case you get sick, car insurance in case you get a collision. You mean you're not going to prepare in case life changes? And I think what makes people think that way is definitely our culture and our government, because there was a time here in America and all over the world when you fell on hard times, you went through hard times. And if your family didn't help you or some church, you were in hard times. And then you learn one thing. You learn, hey, if you want to get out, you're going to get yourself out. That's the way it works. But right now, you fall on hard times, you qualify for a bunch of different programs, and the government prints the money to pay for them, You got people who work for the government. They don't need to worry about serving other people. All they do is follow a set of rules and get a paycheck. So it really lulls people into almost this zombie or this out of reality mindset that everything is always going to be, So that's why I think most of them don't prep. Most of them never think things getting worse. It's just things can only get better. There's a new iPhone coming out. There's a new TV coming out. Things can only get better all the time. So why would I even waste my time thinking about preparedness?
I know.
And that's why I appreciate being in this realm. With you and some good preparedness folks, because we add a touch of reality to people's lives. Even if it freaks them out a little bit, it kind of snaps them back into reality. Say, hey, actually, an EMP or a solar flare could really disrupt my way of living. It could, it would really destroy all of my plans, not only my iPhone. So it gets people prepping. That's one of the most fun things about doing this, I think.
Well, that's where when I was talking, and what's great about what your game has done is if you can get it outside of the prepping community. You introduce it to people, and I'm done. You introduce it to people that aren't, quote unquote, part of that space. And that's where I think, books are a good media for that, as well as movies. And that's, I think a lot of people in the preparedness community had hoped the National Geographic show Doomsday Preppers was going to be a part of this media that would help educate people. And in a lot of ways, it adds to this stigma, and where the masses think that people that are prepared are crazy people, and I think it was done deliberately. But there's I don't think people should quit though. Meaning like trying to spread the word, trying to make sure that your loved ones, the people you care about, can take care of themselves, versus having to come knock on your door, because that is the last. You have scenarios in your card deck, and those are always the best one to play with family. And if people are brutally honest, it can cause fights. People have massive disagreements because people don't want to be told like, I love you, but I'm not going to let you come over. You had your opportunities. We've had this conversation. You've rebuffed me for how many times? Now you want to come over and take what I have. I always use a situation like this with people. What if you came down on financial hard times and one of your family members was, financially well-to-do? Is it that you reverse the tables on them and go, well, then, if I lost my job or if I had, some financial stuff and I was getting ready to go bankrupt, which is like a financial, you're having your own financial apocalypse, right? Is it okay if I come over and you got a big old check from your checkbook and put it in my bank account? Because that's what we do, right? Because I've got all this other stuff, and you're going to come over and feed off of me if the shit hits the fan. But guess what? The shit just hit the fan for me financially. Can I get some from you? The answer is always no. Go get a job, right? Right? Isn't that typically how it is? Obviously, some family members will help, but they'll only help to a certain extent. So you can reverse that argument on family members all day long and friends all day long. Like, really going to come to my house? Well, guess what? I'm kind of short on some funds right now. How about cut me a check for $10K? Watch what they say then. What's the difference?
Yeah, it's crazy. The people's mentality and their ability to really rationalize their behavior. It never ceases to amaze me. Well,
they just don't do what I think. A lot of people just don't want to do the work. I think they just don't want to do it. I think it's there's some laziness that's involved with it. I think there is also kind of a normalcy bias that's kicked in certain. Listen, there are going to be a certain number of people that just will never do it. You can preach to them all day long. You could literally have public service announcements every single day that comes to their phones and TV, wherever they're streaming stuff, but they would still never, ever do it. It's not. I don't think these are people are just the unemployed. These people can be well-to-do, hard-working people. But when it comes to that, they're just lazy. They don't care because they think it will never happen. You'll never convince them, ever.
Yeah, it's the people's ability to stick their head in the sand, because I've had talks with people and they said, yeah, I remember when Y2K was happening. That led nowhere, so I'm tired of this stuff. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to compare a solar flare to the Y2K? When the computers are going to turn the year 2000 or something? These are real threats. Solar flare, a pandemic. This stuff is real, How can you, because of one thing, just cast out every other possibility? I just don't think people want to do the work, to look into these things, and especially to worry. I think if people can just look the other way and forget about it, and then before they realize a month went by, nothing happened, and they're like, yeah, it was scary. That talk was scary, but it's fine, The Dancing with the Stars is on, and the money I have the money I have put away is going to go towards the new iPhone. So it's the same kind of people who are going to come looking for help, who are going to go looting, who are going to say, okay, who's going to come take care of me? Nobody.
Yeah, and I've been told sometimes people are like, why are you so sometimes passionate about having this feeling, or why are some other people that are more prepared adamant about it? It's because we don't want to deal with you. We don't want to have to deal with you if something happens. I don't want to have to be concerned that you're going to come knocking on my door, and then I have to address the situation, and it could turn ugly. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to be proactive here. So, I mean, seriously, I don't know how else. I mean, I've said it so many times, I don't know how to say it. It's like, we want to get as many people ready and prepared and self-reliant because we don't want to deal with you. The fewer people we have to deal with, the better. We already know we're going to have to deal with tens of millions of people out there. I mean, it would just be one less person we'd have to deal with. Hey, let's kind of pivot here, and I want to kind of so you got the 4 decks. What else is on the horizon for the Conflicted franchise?
Wow, we have 2 new things that are going to be out by Christmas, maybe 3.
Wow.
I have a deck based on Annie Burdel's book, Alpha Farm. And we're still trying to get that out before Christmas. I need to check some things with her. There's also a deck number 5 with scenarios from the community. A year went by, and we have new threats. People who new people who want to kind of throw their 2 cents in and give us, the entire community, some scenarios to consider. So we're going to put out a deck full of the community scenarios. And also, one thing that we're coming out with is a set of playing cards with quotes from the Founding Fathers, the American Founding Fathers. And I should have done this earlier because some of these quotes are basically a bucket of cold water on what's going on right now with our government, and people in general, or culture, If you look at writings from Jefferson, from Madison, from Adams, these are guys who were extremely self-reliant, extremely intelligent. They wanted a small government. That wisdom is lost. Nobody talks about them. And we want to bring that back in the form of a really cool-looking set of playing cards that people can use to play. But they also have these quotes that every single one of them people are going to read, and they're going to be like, wow, this is not what's happening now. And we have quotes from the Founding Fathers on everything, from the government to self-reliance to the Second Amendment to money. It would just tell people how far we've come from the ideal of the Founding Fathers, of what this country was supposed to be and what it has become. And I think it's going to be a very subtle way to get people to start to wake up. At least that's what I hope. So that's what we have, and I'm also working on a novel based on the Conflicted world, and
wow.
I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, and I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it, and hopefully that will be out first quarter of next year. And that's what we got going on. So if all goes well, we're going to have some more products, and have a board game that I'm also putting some finishing touches on. That's going to be a lot of fun. And the replayability is going to be limitless. When I'm ready, I'm going to put it out there. And I'll send you a copy for you to try it out with your friends and family. It's a very entertaining game. There's not the edge of Conflicted because you're not really discussing what you would do. You're just playing. But it really puts into perspective certain things about our culture and about our economy. It's a bit of an eye-opener, too. It's very entertaining.
Interesting. So that won't be part of the Conflicted family of games. It'll be kind of something else entirely different?
No, it will be Conflicted, but the board game.
Got it.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I think people are going to get a kick out of it.
So tell me about that. So will the novel fit into the conflicted universe you've got going on now?
Yeah, absolutely. It would. I think people would recognize a few scenarios from the decks, but what I want to do in the novel is tell people of my idea of what a collapse would be like and how it would happen. And at the same time, I want to write into it a lot of what's wrong with our way of living, in a way of the way the government treats people, the way the government works, and the way our political system works. So my hope is to enlighten people, reach a new audience, entertain them, and also educate them and make them really see that what we have right now doesn't work forever, and that eventually it will break. So that's all the things that I'm trying to wrap into a book here, and I'm definitely want to get your input on it when it's ready to go.
Oh, absolutely. Any input, that I would love to share. Anything I can do. I love to help mentor and give what advice I can to writers. So that's exciting. That's really cool. How are you doing all this? I mean, my God, your life is busy. I mean, I know you've got other businesses you're running. How do you manage all this?
Well, I work all the time. I deal with my other businesses from about 8 until about 5. And then from 5 to midnight, I'm making new stuff. I'm pushing Conflicted, or writing a little bit, or working on the board game. I always have a new project. So while people work 8 to 5 and they're done, and they rest, I don't. The only day that I really rest is Sunday. I get to enjoy my family, watch a movie or something. But other than that, I'm always working. And I think that's how I can do a lot of stuff, Here in California, where we live, the government says you're only supposed to work 40 hours a week. And it's actually, you're not supposed to work over 40 hours a week or 8 hours a day, because that's the bare minimum we need to survive. So by making a law that says, hey, that's all you're supposed to work, they guarantee that nobody's ever going to get ahead, if you work for somebody. So I think people get into that box. You say, hey, the government says about 40 hours a week. That's what anything above that, I should just not do and just enjoy myself. But the reality is, if you want to get ahead and create something new, you got to put as many hours as it takes. It doesn't matter if it's 30, 40, 500. You do and you work until it's done. That's the way I see things. And most people don't get it, especially my workers. They don't really get it.
Well, some of this drive that you have, is it from your background, your experiences, or just your DNA? Where does it come from?
I think it comes from my mom. She raised me and my sisters. She was always working. I never remembered her not working all the time. And, and to me, that's the way things are. You just work. And plus, if you're accomplishing things, that kind of feeds your drive, and just, it's things that I like to do, Could I work this much at Walmart? Probably not, because that's not what I'm passionate about. So I found in Conflicted a very easy job, in the sense that it's easy for me to get involved in and lose myself into it. And the other stuff I do to pay the bills. But all this stuff, I take very good pleasure in it. And I suggest everybody there find something else, because the money is only going to lose more of its value over the years. Things are only going to get tougher. So while you can, work. Don't wait until you're 60, and then you get nothing on Social Security for you to start. Start now and just get it done.
But that requires burning a lot of putting a lot of hours in, and a lot of people don't want to do that or don't know where to begin. I think that could be an issue with some people. So, hey, we're getting ready to hit the top of the hour. I don't want it to cut you off. Why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know where to find you, the Conflicted Games website, etc.?
The website is conflictedthegame.com. You can get our decks there. You can get a special edition autograph deck by you from your website, right? gmichaelhopf.com.
That's correct.
And yeah, stay on the lookout for the website. And one last thing I'm going to say is that this Friday is Black Friday, so keep an eye on the website. Maybe you'll find something good there. Okay.
Well, JD, thanks for coming on tonight, sharing with us more of an insight of your game Conflicted, kind of your viewpoints and kind of how the world shakes out. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. And everybody out there, I'm telling you, if you haven't checked out his game, check it out, conflictedthegame.com. You will not be disappointed. And they make great stocking stuffers for Christmas, by the way. So definitely get them. If anything, I've always found, besides being the great tool that they are, when you start having a couple of drinks and you're playing with family, then they can get a lot of fun. If you've ever listened to Lori's show, if you're going to be staying on, I think she's coming on in a couple hours. She usually plays Conflicted on Tuesday nights. You can see how sometimes you can get and become a lot of fun. But definitely, please check out JD's website. Check out his game Conflicted. Be on the lookout for future games, board games, as well as the novel, which I'm excited about. That's really, really cool. We'll be seeing that in the new year. And everybody, please have a happy Thanksgiving and stay frosty.